Hello ladies, it is time for yet another anime review of Black Clover. And this episode was actually really good, not extremely action-packed or anything, but it has more of an emotional value, which is actually very fitting given that we got introduced to what may be the most interesting character in Black Clover as of yet. Now, you'll know from my past Black Clover reviews that I'm a charming man, but as far as story goes, and backstories, Noelle Silva is definitely the more interesting character because when she is originally introduced, we are led to believe that she's just your typical royal princess. You know what I'm talking about, the princess with that bitchy attitude, thinking she's above the rest of the world because of her bloodline and whatnot, but in reality her character goes so much deeper than that, and we get a glimpse of that already in this episode. In some cases backstory is best saved for later, but with Noelle's case, I think having it so early on actually goes really well with how the story is being told, because we did see her briefly in the Magic Knight's exam where she was talking to her brother Nozzle, who is the captain of the Silver Eagle, so her relationship with her family was teased at that time. But if you only watch the anime, you wouldn't really think that this relationship is something to be of some major relevance until you watched this episode, that is. Because in this episode, we really get a strong sense that Noelle and the rest of the Silvas are not on the same page. They all possess incredible magic power as well as control, but Noelle doesn't really have the same luck with controlling her power. She has the magic power of your typical royal family member. Much like the others, you can easily see that if she was to be able to control that power, she'd be an absolute beast. And that actually comes to play a lot later on. Of course, I can't really say anything else because it is difficult to talk about that topic without spoiling. But it did become blatantly obvious this week that this is something that will be a massive character plot point for Noelle in the future at some point, and that alone creates a lot of interest for her because, for me at least, she stands out a lot as a female lead character. If you look at some others like Sakura from Naruto, Lucy from Fairy Tail, or even Ochako from My Hero Academia, they don't really have what Noelle has. Noelle is more of a rebel in the way that she wants to be independent to the point where she shields herself behind that royal attitude. She doesn't want to be looked down upon, and as a result, she ended up creating this sort of fake personality where she made herself think that she was above them, but behind that mask, as we learned in this episode, she's just scared. She's terrified that the Black Bulls would treat her the same way as her family did simply because she could not control her magic like everybody else can. Other than Noelle, although I may return to her later on in this review, we had this interesting moment with Asta and him getting his own room, which was actually quite special to him, who had been living in a church his whole life, sharing rooms with everybody else who lived there with him. So getting a room, despite how filthy it may look to some people, was a really big deal to him. To Asta, that in itself is probably a big step towards his end goal. You have to take baby steps, and for someone in his shoes, without magic and without royal blood, it is going to be hard, but those small steps forward really do count. Him getting a room is essentially like your average person moving out of their parents' house. It's a huge thing for some people, even if to some others it's not really that important. And we obviously had that moment with the church. They expect that will pass, but Asta passing was more of a surprise, and well, I can't really blame them. He doesn't actually have any magic, so becoming a magic knight should in most people's eyes be close to impossible. And boy, do they take it as a good thing. Even the priest church man guy thingy, he's like hype as hell over them both passing. I mean, he was hyped as fuck about alone, but hearing that even Asta passed just makes him explode with energy, and that's what I like to see. Even the less important characters have some screen time. I don't really remember if this was in the manga, I'm pretty sure it was, but it was a good call putting it in the episode nonetheless. That is, if it is filler. I mean, if it's canon, it's obviously not a surprise that it was in this episode. Anyway, so let's talk about Noelle before I end this review, because what I want to talk about is of course the Black Bulls acknowledging her, which is exactly what she feared that they would not. And after she is saved by Asta, Yami, and Finn Finrol's team effort, we see how Astas praises her magic despite how madly out of control it got, and the others just offer nothing but support in whatever way they can. Even Gouch is like, oh, I'll tell you about my sister Mary. I mean, that guy is a fucking legend for comedic reasons. Then there's Vanessa, who offers to help out with precision, which is what she actually excels at, so you can almost feel the positive energy at the end of this episode as Noelle is becoming far more opened up and less closed in as a character. She even drops the whole insect thing and calls Asta by his actual name, which is a huge step in terms of her letting people into her life, which I would say is good when you think about the fact that they will literally be living together, so having that tense relationship like they had at the beginning of the episode, I mean, that's just not going to work in the long run. So we have the main crew assembled at this point. You know, we have Asta, Noelle, Magna, Luck, Yami, Vanessa, Gouch, Charmy, Gordon, Gray, and Finrol. These are the characters that will be the very main focus, which is pretty obvious looking at the opening song alone, and we're about to get some good stuff, my friends. And I honestly cannot wait until we get to the first actual story arcs of this series, because that is really going to step up the game for Black Clover. The series doesn't really have the quickest start as far as mainstream shonen goes, but once it gets into gear, it is very enjoyable for what it is anyway. With that said, I'll be ending this review here, so let me know what you think down below in the comments about this episode. And as always, if you did, be sure to Detroit smash that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host, Perm, and I'll see you next time.